It's the second such incident involving a Russian spacecraft in 2 months. For the second time in 2 months, a Russian spacecraft docked with the International Space Station, ISS, has sprung a leak. Hello and welcome to KYC News. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Mission controllers in Moscow have noticed a depressurization in the robotic Progress 82 cargo craft, Russia's Federal Space Agency Roscosmos announced on Saturday. The depressurization occurred in the Progress vehicle's coolant system, NASA officials said. The reason for the loss of coolant in the Progress 82 spacecraft is being investigated. The hatches between the Progress 82 and the station are open, and temperatures and pressures aboard the station are all normal, NASA officials wrote in a blog post on Saturday, opens in new tab. The crew, which was informed of the cooling loop leak, is in no danger and continuing with normal space station operations. Progress 82 arrived at the islands on October 28, 2022 and was scheduled to depart on February 17. It's unclear if the freighter will still leave on that date or if mission controllers will keep it around longer than originally planned to continue the leak investigation. Progress vehicles are designed to burn up in Earth's atmosphere when their missions are over, so engineers won't be able to examine the vehicle on the ground. Coincidentally, the depressurization was noticed on the same day that another Russian freighter, Progress 83, arrived at the orbiting lab. Progress 83 docked successfully early Saturday morning, unaffected by the travails of its sibling ship. Progress 82's leak follows on the heels of a similar incident involving Russia's MS-22 Soyuz spacecraft, which carried 3 astronauts to the International Space Station in September and was supposed to haul them home again in March. But Soyuz MS-22 leaked away all of its coolant on December 14, a dramatic event that Russian mission controllers eventually traced to an apparent micrometeoroid strike. The vehicle is now unfit to carry astronauts except in case of an emergency aboard the ISS, so Roscosmos plans to launch another Soyuz later this month to take its place. That replacement Soyuz, known as MS-23, will launch uncrewed. It will bring the MS-22 crew, cosmonauts Dmitry Petlin and Sergei Prokopyev and NASA's Frank Rubio, back to Earth, likely in late September. That's the current plan, anyway. It's unclear at the moment if Roscosmos and the other space station partners will adjust it, perhaps to allow more time to conduct a Progress leak investigation and consider the implications of its results. Moscow, an uncrewed Russian supply ship docked at the International Space Station, has leaked coolant, the Russian Space Corporation and NASA reported Saturday, saying the incident doesn't pose any danger to the station's crew. Roscosmos said the hatch between the station and the Progress MS-21 had been locked, so the incident didn't affect the orbiting outpost. The temperature and pressure on board the station are within norms, and there is no danger to health and safety of the crew, it said in a statement. The initial statement from Roscosmos left it unclear whether the entire cargo ship or just some of its systems lost pressure, but Sergei Krikalev, head of Roscosmos crewed programs, later clarified that there was depressurization of the craft's coolant loop. NASA said its specialists are assisting their Russian counterparts in the troubleshooting of the coolant leak. Officials are monitoring all International Space Station systems and are not tracking any other issues, NASA said. The crew, which was informed of the cooling loop leak, is in no danger and continuing with normal space station operations. The depressurization of the cargo craft's coolant loop follows a similar incident in December with the Soyuz crew capsule, which Russian space officials said had been caused by a tiny meteoroid that left a small hole in the exterior radiator and sent coolant spewing into space. Roscosmos has launched a probe into a possible cause of the cooling loop leak, and Krikalev said that experts will closely look at materials and technologies used in spacecraft manufacturing as part of the probe. We need to conduct a thorough analysis to make sure that it wouldn't affect similar components that will be used in the future, Krikalev said. This is the most important task. Roscosmos noted that before the leak, the cargo ship had already been loaded with waste prior to its scheduled disposal. The craft is set to be undocked from the station and deorbit to burn in the atmosphere on February 18th. The announcement came shortly after a new Russian cargo ship docked smoothly at the station on Saturday. The Progress MS-22 delivered almost 3 tons of food, water, and fuel along with scientific equipment for the crew. Roscosmos said that the incident didn't affect the docking of the new cargo ship and will have no impact on the future station program. Russian cosmonauts Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Petlin and NASA astronaut Frank Rubio were supposed to use the Soyuz crew capsule to return to Earth in March, but Russian space officials decided that higher temperatures resulting from the coolant leak could make it dangerous to use. They decided to launch a new Soyuz capsule on February 20th so the crew have a lifeboat in the event of an emergency. But since it will travel in automatic mode to expedite the launch, a replacement crew will now have to wait until late summer or fall when another capsule is ready. It means that Prokopyev, Petlin, and Rubio will have to stay several extra months at the station, possibly pushing their mission to close to a year. NASA took part in all the discussions and agreed with the plan. Besides Prokopyev, Petlin, and Rubio, the space station is home to NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Casada, Russian Anna Kikina, and Japan's Koichi Wakata. The four rode up on a SpaceX capsule last October. An uncrewed Russian spacecraft docked at the International Space Station has lost cabin pressure, but the incident does not pose a danger to the station's crew, the Russian Space Corporation said. The incident does not pose a danger to the station's crew, Russian space officials said. The announcement came shortly after a new Russian cargo ship docked at the station. The Russian Progress MS-21 cargo craft is pictured on February launch an uncrewed Soyuz toward the ISS on February. Vladimir Putin's commanders in Ukraine are facing criticism from Russian military bloggers for not learning from mistakes made earlier in the invasion. 2022, shortly after docking at the International Space Station on Saturday, the Russian Space Corporation said the spacecraft lost cabin pressure. The depressurization occurred in the Progress vehicle's coolant system, NASA officials said. NASA toggle caption NASA. The Russian Progress MS-21 cargo craft is pictured on Petlin. Prokopyev and Rubio are currently sharing the ISS with 4 other astronauts, who are part of SpaceX's for NASA. 2022, shortly after docking at the International Space Station, the hatches between the Progress 82 and the station are open, and temperatures and pressures aboard the station are all normal, NASA officials wrote in a blog post on Saturday. Opens in new tab. On Saturday, the Russian Space Corporation said the spacecraft lost cabin pressure. Russian military bloggers have reacted with anger to losses around the fiercely fought nearby town of Volodar. NASA, an uncrewed Russian spacecraft docked at the International Space Station, has lost cabin pressure, but the incident does not pose a danger to the station's crew, the Russian Space Corporation said on Saturday. Related, whole and leaky Soyuz spacecraft not caused by Geminid meteor. Progress 82 arrived at the islands on October. Mike Wall is the author of Out There, opens in new tab, Grand Central Publishing, 2018. Illustrated by Carl Tate, a book about the search for alien life. Engineers at the Russian Mission Control Center near Moscow first identified depressurization inside the Progress MS-21 cargo ship, Roscosmos said. The hatches between the spacecraft and the station were temporarily closed to prevent further loss of pressure. 17 as of Saturday afternoon, the hatches were reopened and the temperatures and pressures aboard the station are all normal.
Yeah.